Thank you. Well, welcome to this final round of announcements of our final three candidates. Let me get straight to the point and introduce to you not only a party colleague, but a very dear friend of mine, whom I had the pleasure of calling a very good and faithful friend. And she is none other than Dr. Wong Suk Yi, whom I'm sure to many of you is a familiar face. And to my left is again someone whom I'm sure you know by now. The last elections he was fielded in the then Sembawang GRC, and he is Mr. Sadasivam Veria. Let me start with Dr. Wong and give you just a very brief background of her qualifications, and I'll leave her to tell her own story. Dr. Wong Suk Yi is adjunct lecturer at the Center for English Language Communication at the National University of Singapore. She holds a PhD in creative writing and literature. She obtained from the University of New South Wales, Sydney, a Master of Arts degree in creative writing, also from, I beg your pardon, from the University of Western Sydney, and a Bachelor of Accountancy from the NUS. I will just call upon Dr. Wong right now to introduce herself and to tell you just a little bit more about why she's in this elections. So,
all right. Thank you, Sun Juan, for the introduction. Hello, everybody. So, why did I decide to throw into my hat? Well, the most important reason why I'm taking part in this general election is because there is a need, there's a desperate need to have more opposition MPs in Parliament. Now, we have known that since independence, for the longest time, the Parliament has been dominated by PAP MPs. And as a result, bills get passed without any meaningful debate or challenge. Why is this the case? This is because PAP MPs cannot and do not check on the actions of their own party. Here and there, we may have a few PAP MPs who have the courage to oppose bills proposed in Parliament. But these are few and far between, and we can count them on the fingers of the hand. And even in those rare moments when PAP MPs do have courage to oppose the party, there's such thing called the party whip, which means when if the party whip is not lifted, PAP MPs are obliged to vote along party lines. So that is why for the last 50 years, we have a pretty lopsided parliament. And well, even in the much celebrated 2011 general election, where many people say is a watershed election, we still have only 7 opposition MPs out of a total of 87. Now, this cannot go on. And this is why I decided to join in this GE 2015. And we need many, many more MPs, not just a few more, because 1/3 opposition is not enough. Now, 1/3 opposition may block the PAP government from making changes to our constitution. But if the government decides to make any changes to our CPF, for example, if they want to increase our CPF minimum sum, if they want to extend the wage, CPF money, or if they what in terms of population, if they want to increase the population to 6.9 million people, they can do that simply with a simple 50% majority. So this is why opposition parties, and of course SDP in particular, have to send more people to parliament to block the PAP's dominance.
Thank you, Sugi. I'll call on Mr. Sadasivam Varia, again, as I said, someone whom you are familiar with by now, to tell us his story himself.
Well, this is the second time I think we are meeting again. Last election 4 years ago, when we met, I think I've introduced myself and I've expressed what is the stand that I've taken. But this election is something very interesting. Last election has managed to bring in about 8 new opposition MPs to the parliament, and as a result, the government has started to turn the face and start to look at the people. But still, they are not listening to the voters. They are not bothered about the citizens. They are concerned about their future, their continuity. Whereas we in the opposition, we feel it is time for them to not only look at the voters, to listen to their concern, to see what is the problem that they are really facing. Be practical. I've been a grassroots man. I'm with them all the way. I was also an ex-PAP member. I know how PAP functions. They always like to look down. They're not bothered about the feedback from the people. Whatever that you wanted to say, you can say, but they're not prepared to listen. That is one of the reasons why that I quit the party. Not only myself, there are quite a number of people who have crossed because of the interest the government is not showing on people. Even the PAP MPs, I personally have spoken to some who are very unhappy. They feel that the government is shifted the ground. So we are here. SDP is standing for the people, to be the voice of the people. That is what we need. It is no point filling up the seats in the parliament if you don't voice yourself. It's not beneficial to anybody. So there's a high time. That is the reason why the SDP is contesting seriously, has come up with economic reports, has come up with various reports to show our interest. PAP always claimed that opposition are fly-by-night politicians. We appear only during the election time. See whether they dare to say that again. Because the constituencies that we will be standing, the voters have seen us many times. They have seen us. They may not have seen the PAP MPs, but they have seen us in the weekends. We have sat with them. We know their problems. We know their problems. So that is the reason why that we are standing. We are not fly-by-night politicians. We know we have got issues to take up. We see whether the government is willing to face the consequence. I give you a simple example. Just about a couple of weeks ago, we talk about a MediSafe withdrawal. Everybody started to rush to CPF board to cure. So I was there just to see what's the situation. They say that anything above in a MediSafe, if you have got, they've got a minimum sum. If you have got anything above that, you can withdraw the cash immediately. Everybody queuing up, every CPF box, long queue. But the problem, if they have seen the people, ask, they will tell you. How many of them really collected the money? See whether the government is willing to release the statistics. Because all those vendors, they got only the piece of paper to show that they have to top up. Now how do we draw? You see, how do we draw? There's no money. You see, the top-up scheme is there. So what is the point of we work so hard all our life? I'm in the 60s now. When we started to work, 55 is the time we'll get the money. When they reach 55, they shifted the goalpost to 62. When you reach 62, shift the goalpost further to 65. This is how the government wants to do. We ask the citizens who are above 60s how they are facing the day-to-day life. Very, very unhappy. That is the reason why, as a grassroots man, I think it is high time to let the government know what is the real situation, be practical. That is the reason why that I am with SDP and I'm standing with SDP. And even you will back us up because we are here to speak for you. Thank you.
Sada mentioned about him, being serving in various capacities when he was still with the PAP. And just like to add that he had been with the grassroots organizations in Ayer Rajah constituency under former PAP MP Dr. Tan Cheng Bock. Sada also was actively participated in various civic organizations, and as he had mentioned, he's a very active and strong proponent of workers' rights and serving in various capacities in the Tamil Teachers Union. All right, now the final candidate that we are going to present to you I know, especially our friends from the media, you've been through a very grueling process of having to attend so many conferences, media conferences. I will spare you the agony of going through my bio and just refer you to the website that we will be putting up, I think even as we speak. So, without further ado, we will just open this press conference up for any questions that you might have for Suk-Yi, Sada, or myself.
Sorry, can I check, Sui, how old are you?
I'm 56 years and 10 months young.
It's a very small hint that the birthday is coming up, so.
How about Mr. Sada?
I'm 63.
I'm 53.
So maybe I'll start the ball rolling. Halfway from Taobao
Please
here. This time you talk about the CPF, family safe. Are these some of the issues that you'll be touching on during the campaigning period?
Asking me?
Anyone can take the question. What are some of the issues that you
Well, there are a lot more. It is just one of the issues that I'm talking about. There are a lot of issues because at the moment, housing is still a problem. Only now, just elections around the corner, when they announced around the corner, they're coming up with the new policies. For those aging citizens above 60 have got a new scheme coming up. So that is one thing. But I consider that it's just a gimmick. It's for election gimmick. Because they practically got to look at the problems. Few years ago, they came up with the studio apartment issues. How well it's been received, nobody knows. What is the follow-up, nobody knows. But still, the problems are going on. See? And then, marriage top-up scheme is there. A lot of unhappiness. If, as a press, if we get a chance to visit CPF board, especially the Club 55 group, you see that a lot of unhappiness. People walking there to quarrel with CPF board people. Because what is the point of you holding on to hundreds of thousands belong to the citizens, belong to the workers who have suffered throughout their life, worked hard. At this age, in the 60s, they have been forced to work, look for a job. That is the time that they need rest, they need, because they are not healthy. Not all of them are healthy. Still, they are in need of it. But the problem is that the government must make provision. But unfortunately, there's no concern and care at all. That is the problem. So this is one of the issues I'm talking about. There's many, many more. So I leave it to the rallies.
Like how about Madam Wong? The
Dr.
issues
Wong.
that you are most concerned about.
But there'll be two issues that I'm most concerned about, and if we get elected to Parliament, these are the two issues I would like to advocate for, and they are accountability and transparency. Accountability means the government has to explain its action and decisions to the people. And in addition, they have to take responsibility when things go wrong. For example, with the regular breakdowns of our MRT trains. So when such problems that affect many Singaporeans happen, the government has to form independent inquiry to investigate the root causes of such problems. Now, the operative word here is independent inquiry. It has to be an independent commission of inquiry and not people who are appointed by themselves to check on themselves. And in terms of transparency, transparency means providing information, and not just any type of information, but the right information, so that citizens are able to make informed decisions about things that affect their lives. For example, how many of us in this room know how the money in Temasek Holdings and in GIC, how this money is used? Does anybody know? Now, where is the proper accounting? I'm sure many of us remember our late President, Mr. Ong Ting Cheong, has asked the question about the amount of money we have in our national reserves. And the famous reply he got was, yeah, he said, it will take us 56 man years to calculate the dollar and cent value of our immovable assets. So that really doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in the managers at GIC who are managing our money. So this is what I mean by transparency, that the government does not provide the citizens with the information that directly affects our life. Like, these are our money. So these are two issues, accountability and transparency, that I will be taking up when we get to Parliament.
Any others?
I'm sorry, Madam Wong, are you comfortable to converse in Mandarin about the concerns that you raised just now?
No， 我的华语是可以的啦。如果你叫我 explain concept 或者 policy， 那就比较困难。
很多新加坡人啊，他们聊天的时候，平常普通我们在讲话的时候没有问题。问题是说，如果要谈到政治的时候。
From me. The first is that the PAP actually unveiled its manifesto this morning. Its slogan for this election would be "With you, for Singapore." Could we get SDP's comments on that? And the second question is, the last time you stood was in 2001. I was wondering whether you might be able to share whether there would be any difference in the party's approach and your approach this time around, and if possible, where would you personally be standing?
Sure. We are beyond sloganeering. You can come up with the most beautiful of slogans, with you, for you, whatever. The reality is still that Singaporeans are suffering and having difficulty in coping with the cost of living here in Singapore. What does the PAP plan to, how does it plan to address their difficulty? We've said it before and we will say it again. This election, for the SDP, we are going to put our alternative policies front and center of our campaign. And that means that we're going to do away with all the rhetoric. And then in that vein, then challenge the PAP to go and tell Singaporeans what they're going to do with the fact that Singapore is the most expensive city. I think it was just last week, Mercer came up with a ranking and found Singapore to be the 4th city with the highest cost of living. And then we have our wages stagnating. Then we don't have minimum wage. What does the PAP, what is the PAP going to do, and how is it going to address these problems? Are they going to go beyond their slogans? This is where I think this fight is going to be in this election. And we are up for it. We are going to present the concrete proposals to the electorate and what we can do when we're in Parliament, and then how we're going to push the government, the PAP, into doing if and when we get into Parliament. On your second question about my participating, my last elections was in 2001. I will point you again to something that you can see, that you can touch and feel, and that is what's happening right here in this room today. 2001, we were nowhere close. We have built up. We have put in place proper organization. We have put in place a set of policies, very workable, not just one-page write-ups here and there, but policies that Singaporeans can study, and it's up on our website. And we have placed before the electorate a slate of 11 candidates, people not only with brains, but with heart as well. Candidates who are willing to serve, and candidates who are willing and have the conviction, have the ability to take up some of these issues and speak up for the people in Parliament. Are there any questions?
You talked quite a bit about cost of living. What are some of the policies that you plan to change or implement to address this particular area?
One of the things that have pushed our cost of living up to such an incredible extent, just a couple of policies that are all interlinked. The first one is the move to allow the super rich, right, the high net worth individuals, and trying to attract them. And you're talking about it's about 2001. Then Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Mr. Lee Hsien Loong rewrote the banking law, right, in order for Singapore to attract these rich people, very rich people, and as a result, Singapore has the highest proportion of millionaires and billionaires in the world. All this has to have an effect on our economy, pushes prices up. And when you do that, the pressure's on. And at the same time, the government then allows in or imports cheap foreign labor in order to keep wages down. Why? Because the multinationals continue to hanker for cheap labor. So you have this double whammy. On the one hand, the rich are coming in and pushing up prices, while on the other, you have your foreign workers keeping wages down. And that is what is causing so much hardship to Singapore. So one way, if you want to very easily deal with the situation, is to implement what we have proposed, and then it is what we call the talent track scheme, where you have a system to award points to people foreigners who wish to work in Singapore, and you give them points based on their competencies, their skill sets, their age, and so on. And if they meet the cutoff, then they go into this pool. And when they go into this pool, then Singaporean employers can employ from this pool, but only after they've demonstrated that they cannot find the talent, Singaporean talent here. So these are some of the concrete policies that we'll be proposing, and we'll go into it further in detail as we progress into this election.
Dr. Chi, we know that SDP is interested in 3 SMCs for this election. So does that mean that the 3 candidates seated here today will be the ones contesting, or when will we know the?
I wouldn't draw that conclusion. So upon nomination day, we'll go to the respective constituencies, nomination centers, and we'll announce it there. Okay.
Dr. Chi, are you able to talk about your personal journey since 01 and not being able to contest in the election since then, and this being the first in 14 years that you're able to stand?
Well, you know, in the last 15 years, I think a lot has happened. But the one thing that has not happened is that we've been sitting on our hands, you know, not doing anything. During that period, we have been very painstakingly cultivated a platform. And because of that platform, that cornerstone which the SDP has always modeled our party on, we have been able to attract some very good people into our midst, and from there to be able to continue to build on on the talent that we have attracted, and not to mention our rank and file. People have come up and just very diligently, in a very quiet manner, gone about doing the things that, you know, not in front of the camera. But you always need these people to get the work done, and these people believed in us. They believed in what the SDP stood for, and that was the most important thing I can tell you right now in that whole process of building up. From, if you want to use that as a benchmark, 2001 until today. So it's been a good decade and a half, if not more, that we have cultivated this party and brought it up to where it is today. We're very proud of what we've achieved and we've done, and we continue to look forward to bigger and better things for this party and for Singapore.
Dr. Chi, have you already decided where you're going to contest? And if you can't reveal, could you share with us what are the factors that you consider in deciding where you stand?
Well, we have already gotten our lineup, but as I said, it's best if we left it until nominations day. And if we do decide otherwise, I will be sure to inform you. But again, as I said, you know, in deciding where we stand, I think it's important to bear in mind that no matter where we go, we are going to bring the same message to the voters. Okay, that we cannot go on this way. This system is unsustainable. You have the income disparity right now. You have the fact that, as Sui mentioned, this non-transparent nature, where our 2 sovereign wealth funds are put in charge. We have the Prime Minister and his wife. That cannot be the case. That is something which we must look at and continue to bring to the attention of Singaporeans. Something which we must change. And if you look at the situation that's developing right now, we've styled ourselves, we've built up ourselves a financial center, right? If not the world, then in Asia. Look at what's happening right now. We warned about it many times. Right after the 2008 financial crisis, the whole financial system is still in a mess. You have efforts like Frank Dodd coming in and all some of these acts that they're trying to put in place in the US, but they're nowhere close to reforming the system where we can be confidently saying it's going to work. And yet we've put ourselves up as a financial center, and what's happening in China right now, it's got a huge repercussions, not to mention Europe as well. So I say let us be careful and put checks and balance into our system, and it's going to be very important as we head into the future, what we want, at least Singapore to be doing.
It may be the same message that the party's candidates will bring with whichever constituency they stand, but there's also an element of strategy. So how will you decide between, contesting in an SMC or leading a GRC team?
You're telling me,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, I think it's important that we continue to look at the various factors, and we've been doing that. But it's something we've discussed behind, in the constitution, and not something which we will be talking about it in a media conference. But these are our factors which we have taken into consideration, and based on these, we've then decided to field our candidates in certain constituencies. Of course, there are limitations, right? Because you have an independent, you have either an Indian GRC, you have an Indian GRC, and then you have a Malay GRC, and that's something that we are able. So that cuts down some of the permutations that we are able to make. But nonetheless, we've decided what we've decided, and we'll announce it when nomination day comes.
Only on nomination?
On nomination day, yes.
Dr. Cheese, several of the other opposition parties have banded together and vote for change badge. Why is it that is SDP party to it? And if so, why are your candidates not wearing it?
Well, we've planned our campaign from very early on. I'm talking about since last year, and because we've got our own game plan, we want to stick to our own game plan and not have things come in and then get distracted. And that's the worst thing that can happen to a campaign, to a strategy. So we wish them well. We ask everybody to fight hard, but at the same time, we need to stick to our own game plan and pursue what we see as an important strategy to be successful at the polls.
The party uploaded a video today. Are you worried about issues considered? It may be considered party political film and things like that.
When you look at this video, what's been pointed out to us in our previous video, the Pappy washing powder, this video is very different, and we're focused on the policy. We are just very concerned that many of our retirees are unable to survive in today's context. And the fact that what Sada has mentioned, the bar keeps getting raised every time you hit the withdrawal age, it gets raised. That is what we want to put across. That's reality. And we want to bring this home to the people and tell them that without an opposition, the PAP will continue to do this simply because of the fact that it can. Right? And this should be of the greatest concern of Singaporeans, of voters, that they get a party like the SDP into Parliament to make sure that we have a proper checks and balance system, so that the PAP cannot do at will what it is doing right now. If there are no further questions, I want to thank you everyone.
Sorry, Dr. Wong, can I ask, how long have you been a member of SDP and what skills or experience do you think you bring to the table?
Right. I joined the STP in 1995. That was 20 years ago. And the next question about what skills I can bring to the party. Well, I've been an English teacher for 10 years, and before that, I was a journalist for 4 years at the Business Times and elsewhere. I believe I have the effective communication skills, to communicate with residents and understand the problems. But though I may have a PhD in English literature and creative writing, but I'm also a fan of Hong Kong drama. So I think, I will be able to communicate with residents in either Mandarin or Cantonese, which is my mother tongue.
Sorry, do you hold any position in STP
So I hold any position
party
in,
position?
I'm a faithful member.
They say in her mother tongue, oh yeah.
Of the FCC member, still an active member.
Dr. Wong, I understand that you were previously a political detainee. Can I get your stance on detention without trial?
Well, my stance and the STP stance has always been that ISA has to go. Well, basically, ISA enables the government to detain anyone without trial. That effectively is a suspension of all laws. I mean, as we understand, Law 101 tells us that you make any allegations, you have to support it with evidence. But the ISA precisely denying citizens of this right, that the government, when they make allegations against us, they do not have to produce evidence, and they do not even bring us to court. So that is against every grain of democratic values, and it is also open to abuse of power.
I want to bring to your attention among us this afternoon a man whom I have only the highest respect. He was detained under the ISA. He's none other than Dr. Po Suka. He's sitting at his right.
We also need these details about yourself. Are you married or children, ages, the children's ages, if any?
I'm married with 3 boys, all are grown up. And
What are their ages? What are their ages?
the eldest is 30, the youngest is about 25.
Oh, okay. I'm single. I have 7 children, 6 cats, and a dog.
That's 7 children, colon, 6 cats, and a dog.
Sorry, not 7 children and 6 cats.
Are there any more questions? Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for coming.